On today's episode, we'll be talking about my finished object, as well as some socks in progress and a new fiber tool. Hey everyone, I'm Marina and this is Pineapple Knits. This is my channel dedicated to knitting, spinning, and weaving. You can connect with me on social media at Pineapple Yarn, and you can connect with me on my website at pineappleyarn.com. Thanks so much for joining me again this week. I hope you're doing so well where you are. I'm coming to you today from coastal South Carolina, where we've had 3 full days of sun. It's like a record. And the rain has finally stopped and I'm just soaking all this sun in. I don't care what the temperature is. I don't care. The rain's coming back. So I am just really trying to soak in all the sun before it goes away again. But I've had a really productive week. I have been working a ton. I have a huge shop update for you coming in just a couple days, and I have this gorgeous finished object that I can't wait to talk about. Before I talk about that though, I want to mention what is on my mannequin behind me. This is the Banana Leaf Shawl by Yuki Ueda. I also had it on display last week, but it's definitely one of my favorites. It's such a beautiful shawl and it's just a very unique shape, and it's not meant for minis, but it worked out so well with my 2019 advent calendar, and that's what all this yarn is, and I still have a ton left over, but it just turned out so pretty, and I love wearing it. I wear it all the time, so I decided to keep it on here for another week. And I'm also burning my Royal Palm candle. I love this candle. I've talked about it for several weeks now. It's just the best summery scent and I've just really been loving it. It's so uplifting and yeah, it's great for spring, great for summer, and anytime you need a little sunny boost. So I'm so excited this week because I finally finished my Novice Cardigan. This is a pattern from PetiteKnit. It is a DK weight and a strand of my Noe mohair silk, which is a lace weight, held together, knit with some giant needles, size 11 needles, and you come up with this gorgeous, squishy, super soft fabric. Can't even believe how warm and lightweight this sweater is. So let me stand up and show you. I can't show you the entire length just from where I'm standing, but I'll try my best here. So it is hitting kind of on my high hip. I knit this in the round. That's a departure from the pattern, and I wanted to steek it because if you want to avoid purling, I mean, why not? So this is a steeked cardigan. It went really well, and this is what it looks like on the inside. I did a crochet finish and it worked out great. I just hand stitched it closed with some matching thread, like sewing thread. And then I added these buttons. And so these buttons are just really inexpensive plastic buttons that I purchased. Well, I'll leave a link below. If I remember, they are very inexpensive buttons. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with buttons, and since I knew I couldn't purchase them in person anywhere around where I live, I just kind of went for some generic ones, and actually I think they go okay. So yeah, this was just a really wonderful pattern. I can't say enough great things about it. Basically, it's a top-down sweater. If you're following the pattern, what you're going to do is start at the neckline, cast on, and then you're going to knit the right sides, purl the wrong sides. What I did is I knit it in the round because I wanted to steek it, which is just cutting up the middle and adding a button band. And so last week, you might remember, I had the steek, I had it ready to steek. What I did is I picked up and added the button bands right in the middle, just leaving a little section, which I ended up then folding over and stitching down. The buttonholes I did do differently than the pattern. I love, and I don't know if this is what they're called technically speaking, but I love a backward cast on buttonhole. So basically, you're casting on a few stitches in order to make a hole. I guess that's the best way to say it, instead of like a yarn over, a knit two together yarn over type buttonhole. I have knit them for so long though that sometimes I just don't remember like the technical name for them, but that's what I did on here. And these buttons are about 1 inch or maybe a little over 1 inch, so it worked out great. I think I cast on 3 stitches, and so I used a US size 9 needle for all of the ribbing, for the cuffs and for the neckline, and then obviously the hem and the button band. But other than that, it was super easy. The sleeves are knit straight down and then a series of decreases, and the cuffs, you have this kind of, it's definitely a lot of fabric in the arm, but it wasn't as balloon shaped as I thought it might be, which I'm not really into that. My teenage daughter's really into that and I'm really not. So, but this was kind of like a good medium. It's a nice loose sleeve, and you do get a little bit of volume in the sleeve, but it's not a ton. So this is it. I think it's really, really cute. The yarn I used was a color from my Sun Club, September 2020. It's kind of a tonal neon pink with black speckles and hot pink speckles, and little variation in there. But this is what really shines through. And then I layered a strand of my Noe Mohair Silk in Coral Conch, so it really warms up this neon pink. I have warm skin tone, and so I like more warmer tones. I know it looks better on me, and so I try to be mindful of that. Sometimes I just do whatever I want, but in this case, that's what I went with. And all in all, I think it's really cute. I think it's going to be really cute with a black dress. For some reason, I feel like this is really dressy. I don't know if it's the shape of it. It kind of reminds me of like just kind of a dressy jacket, or I don't want to say a blazer, but I think this is going to be really, really cute with a black dress. So anyway, it's really fun. It's really warm. That's what I wanted. I wanted a warm sweater because I get so cold in the winter. And so all in all, super happy with this pattern. So it was a huge accomplishment this week to get this sweater done and blocked and the buttons on. And so I'll have to take some photos and put all the info up on my projects page. For those of you who may have missed a few episodes back, one of my goals for 2021 is to be more consistent about taking notes on my projects, kind of documenting my projects. I've always been very terrible about that, and I'm trying to be a little better about it this year and see if I like doing that. I mean, if I really don't enjoy doing it, then maybe I won't be so detailed, but I think it is nice just to have a little, have some photos and have some notes about the projects I did, because what always happens is I will go back and want to knit a pattern again, and I know that I've modified it in some way and I don't have notes on it. So I'm trying to be a little better about that. I am super excited though, because this weekend I carved out some time to work on my circular sock machine. And so I knit 2 pairs of socks, and I am still finishing up 1 pair. But let me show you this first pair that I knit that I'm really, really loving right now. This is a colorway that I have not had in my shop. I dyed this yarn about a year ago and I love it. It's just this beautiful gray and pops of green, speckles of different shades of green, and a really pretty kind of like hibiscus pink color is what it looks like to me. I think it's so, so pretty. And like I said, I knit these on my circular sock machine. I knit them a little larger than how I normally knit socks because I intend to gift them to a friend, but I think they're really, really pretty. I knit these on a 64 slot cylinder, and all that means is there's 64 stitches around. So if you're a hand knitter of socks, that's what it means. And so this was a 64 slot cylinder. I did a drop or a hung hem of 20 rows. So I knit 20 rows and then folded it up and did a hung hem. I knit 65 rounds. I did a basic short row heel like I do on all of my socks. And then I knit 68 rounds, and for myself on my tension, I usually knit 65 rounds, and that's for fairly small feet. And so this one, 68, I feel like is a good in-between size. It's not for super, longer than average feet. I feel like 68 rounds on my tension is pretty average. And then I just did a short row toe, but I thought those turned out really, really pretty. I like the yarn. I do have more of this that I might pop in the shop as kind of a one of a kind. I do have some DK weight, I'm pretty sure. So keep an eye out for that, or just message me if you are interested, because it's really pretty. I think it's really pretty for spring. So I think this will be a nice gift for a friend, and I really was so happy to get back on my circular sock machine. My circular sock machine is an Erlbacher Gerhardt Speedster, the red one, if you know what they look like. And it is difficult for me to carve out the time to get on it because it's out here in the studio. Normally when I'm out here in the studio, I work part-time out here doing as much work as I can in a short amount of time. And so I just don't have time for like hobby knitting, or I don't work full time. And so I have to be very focused on actual work, fulfilling orders and dyeing and all of that. So this is something I would do on, say, a Sunday. I would come out to the studio because I can't keep this in my house. I can't keep the circular sock machine in my house. I cannot even imagine with my toddlers I can't even imagine what kind of destruction would happen. So it is out here safely in the studio. The next sock I am working on is a micro skein set that I do have a few left of in the shop. It's called Happy Fall, Y'all. I knit it last fall and I wanted to make a really punchy, colorful fall palette. And so here's what this looks like. And I think this is so cute. I love how this turned out. I've never made striped socks on the circular sock machine. And so I really wanted to try it out with this palette. I love all these colors together. They're kind of unexpected and they're super cheerful. And I really wanted some fall tones, but also some kind of punchy tones in there as well. And so, like I said, this is my Happy Fall, Y'all micro skein set. And what that means is that it's 10 gram little tiny skeins, so like half of a mini skein. I did 13 rounds per stripe, and so that ends up being, I can't remember, 13 times 5, oh my gosh, 65. I figured it out because I knew that I did 65 rounds in the feet of my socks. And so I figured with 10 different colors, I could do 5 up here and then 5 in the foot and have 65 rounds for the leg and the foot. I knit these on a 60 slot cylinder, and so normally when I hand knit my socks, I would do 60 stitches around on like a US 0. That's my tension. I'm a loose hand knitter, so when I get a good tension on my circular sock machine, I also use a 60 slot cylinder, and it works really, really well. And then I did a hung hem, a 20 round hung hem like I did in the last pair of socks, a short row heel and a short row toe. And I just used this kind of neutral yarn that I dyed years ago. I don't even know what the color is. It's an old pineapple yarn color. And so I really like how this turned out. I have one sock done, and this is what my other one looks like so far. I have not wove in the ends for these socks or anything. And so this is what the second one looks like. And as you can tell, this is what the toe looks like when you take it off the machine. This blue right here is scrap yarn, and the toe is knit just like the heel. So if you see here, those are exactly the same shapes. It's so strange and awesome how sock knitting, the shapes come out, and I love it. It's so cool. And on a circular sock machine, it's like magic. It's amazing. So what I do to finish this sock, I will take the end of the sock and I will fold it in half the other way. So this would be the top of my foot right here, and this would be the sole of my foot. And I fold this over, and so here you see the top of my toe. And then all this right here, you see that the scrap yarn meets. And I graft those two sides, if you will. I graft this opening together. And I basically do a Kitchener stitch, but without putting it onto 2 needles and then hand sewing it with a needle. And so I really haven't, I saw this technique years ago, and there may be some tutorials on YouTube. I might just jump on and see if I can find you a link if you're interested and put it in the show notes below. But it's a really awesome way to graft the toes for a sock. So if you're doing a cuff down sock, normally you do Kitchener stitch on the top of the toe, but with a sock from a circular sock machine, this opening is kind of right at the base of your toes. So it's on the top of your foot, and that's where you'd stitch it up. It's really, really cool. And the inside of my sock looks like this right now. I have lots of strings. And so all of those strings, because this is not self-striping yarn, all of those strings have to be sewn into the sock in order for it to be complete. So this is a really fun way to use up a whole bunch of scrap yarn. So including the cuff, heel, and toe, there's 11 colors in here, which is so cool. I think this just turned out so, so cute. I love it. And so it's a lot of ends to weave in as well. But whether you hand knit this, whether you use your circular sock machine, it's a great way to use very small amounts of yarn. I will post this on my projects page when I'm done, because I always think it's really, really interesting how much yarn you actually use in these projects. And it's always surprising to me, 10-gram micro skeins or 20-gram mini skeins, how much yarn there actually is in those tiny skeins. There's a significant amount of yarn, and that's one reason personally I really love mini skein sets and micro skein sets, because it kind of they're very versatile. You can use them in all different kinds of projects. And then of course, if you have leftover yarn, same thing. You could use it in a really fun stripy sock. I think this would be super cute if you had sleeves on a sweater that were striped like this. It'd be so cute. Anyway, very happy I was able to get onto my circular sock machine this weekend. I always really enjoy doing that. It's just carving out the time to do it. And so once I finish these, hopefully I'll get into the groove, get into the rhythm of knitting up a couple pairs of socks to work on. I have no problem sewing in ends and just kind of doing the finishing work that has to be done on these socks. And so they're nice, actually, you know, in the evenings if you're watching TV or hanging out with family or whatnot. I find it very relaxing. So that was it. That's the sock update. I'd given you a little teaser at the beginning that I acquired a new fiber tool. Now I did this probably a month or 6 weeks ago, but I haven't really had a lot of time to use it because, again, it's out here in the studio because it's dangerous. And so I'm gonna go ahead and hold it up and show you. This is a mini drum carder. It's from Brother, and I have had so much fun with it so far. The time that I've actually spent using it, you can tell it has been used so far, but it is really small. I'm obviously holding it, so you can tell how much it weighs, but the bats that it makes are actually very manageable for spinning. A lot of drum carders make very wide bats, and this one makes more narrow bats, which I'll show you in a minute. But I'm really happy with it so far. This is the first drum carder I've ever owned and I've ever used. And so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but I have a lot of fiber and I like using my blending board. And so I thought that this would be a good next step to try it out. It was a really great price point as far as fiber tools and especially drum carders go. And so, yeah, I thought I would give it a try. I'm so happy I did. It's great. I love the size. I love the way it is. I love the way that it makes bats. I love the way the bats turn out. When I unpacked that drum carder, when I first received it, I was thinking, okay, I've got to be really careful. I knew that it was sharp on the top and everything. And one of the, is it called a tine? I don't know what the pieces sticking up, the teeth, I'm not really sure. Anyway, one went right through my finger. And so, yeah, I really needed to go put it back before I had another accident. But I don't know if you remember when, this was quite a while ago, I had saved all the ends from my yarn, from dyeing yarn, and cut them up, and I blended them into some wool to use for spinning because I wanted to make like kind of a tweed yarn. I had blended it with an undyed Polworth on my blending board, and the yarn turned out beautiful. It was kind of a confetti type yarn because of the undyed wool, and then of course all of my yarn ends from my yarn are going to be super bright and colorful. So I took some fiber. This is a superwash merino. I don't know if I would do this again, but it's just kind of a random braid that I had dyed and I had lying around. So I decided to put it into my drum carder, and this is what I came up with. I came up with these beautiful confetti bats. And I'll give you a close-up in a minute, but I have been saving all of my yarn ends. So all I did was put the fiber through and I made sandwiches. I put a thin layer of the wool and then sprinkled some of my yarn confetti in, and topped it off with another layer of fiber, and this is what they came out to look like. So I hope you can see this. This is so pretty. It might be blowing out from the lights that I have, but I definitely have a lot of my confetti in there. It's so pretty. I really like it. And so I made it 4 of these mini bats. And I should open them up so you can see the middles, because they don't always, you can't always see the middles of what's actually in the bats until you open them up. And so here's what it is opened up. This is the other one. So hopefully you can see all those little bits and pieces in there. The braid that I used was dyed with warm tones of neons with white. And so it was kind of like neon yellow and neon orange and neon pink, but quite a bit of white. And so you can tell, I don't know if you can see this yellow around here, but really what it did is it blended up to these beautiful kind of like sherbets, like creamsicle colors. They're really pretty. So these will probably be my next spinning project. I did prep my Hedgehog Fibers monthly club that I showed you last week. I did prep it, but just never got on the wheel this week. And so I have this waiting in the wings now. I have that one all prepped and ready to go. And so I have some spinning to do, I think. Well, that's all I wanted to share with you this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be filming a shop update video after this if you care to join me. I am having a huge shop update this Friday, and so I hope you'll join me over there. My shop updates are every other Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I have a ton of yarn this week. It's so exciting. Tonals and colorways and minis, so definitely check that out. And just a little reminder to you that my March pre-order clubs are almost up. They will be closed March 1st, and the next month's will be open on March 1st. But I will join you next week for another episode. Definitely check out my shop update video after this. But have a wonderful time crafting whatever your hobby is. I hope it brings so much joy to your life, and I will see you next time. I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.